All right. What's going on, everybody? Keith Niebuhr with Gators Online to preview today's big game. It's a season opener for the Florida Gators. Another season is about to get underway. They're playing on the road in Salt Lake City against a ranked Utah team that's the defending Pac-12 champions, a team with major aspirations again this season. It's a major challenge. And to talk about this matchup, we've got Zach Alberverdi of Gators Online and Nick Delatorre, who looks like Lance Armstrong out there with the glasses and the well, I'm sorry, George Clooney, I guess, is a better comparison.
He got called George Clooney this week in Utah.
We're going to break down the game. These guys know everything. But we've got breaking news right now. We've got some significant news. Kingsley Agholor, Florida's starting center, looks like he's not going to play. Zach, give us the latest information here.
Yeah, things had been trending that way this week. He got hurt in at the end of fall camp on August 16th, right before the last scrimmage, and he hadn't practiced since then. There was some hope maybe that at some point this week he would be able to give it a go, but he's basically been limited, kind of working off to the side with the trainers and doing all the things that guys do that are, where things stand now. At the latest is, he's not expected to play tonight. It would be a surprise at this point. So Jake Slaughter with Kingsley out will make his first career start in Salt Lake City against Utah. Now, this is not a spot that this offensive line and this team has been unfamiliar with throughout the offseason. He's had to do this twice now. He did it in the spring game when Kingsley was out, and then he did it in the last scrimmage of fall camp when Kingsley was sidelined. So he's had some work. Kingsley is confident in Jake. I know Billy and Rob Sale are confident in Jake. They really think this guy is going to step right in and not miss a beat. But you're still losing your starting center that started 26 consecutive games. So it's worth noting.
All right, Nick, let me just get your take on this too. We got, Zach gave us the news and his thoughts on it. What's your opinion on this center situation? How significant is it for Florida?
Yeah, it's significant. 26 straight starts. He's played in 40 games over 4 years. Florida has expressed confidence in Jake Slaughter, but it's a guy that we really haven't seen much of, mostly on special teams. So, when you get into spring camp and fall camp, everyone's great. The reports are never bad. So I just haven't seen Jake Slaughter to know that, hey, this is not going to be a drop-off. Will it be? It could be. It might not be. So, losing a guy as veteran as Kingsley, really your most veteran player returning on offense next to Ricky Pearsall, is not good. So I don't think it means Florida loses the game because you're out your center. But if Florida wants to run the football, they talk about 5 = 1. This starting 5 will have not played very much together at all. So it's something Florida has to get over. It's not a death blow or it's something that will doom them on Thursday night, but it's definitely not a good thing for the Gators.
All right, before we get into further breakdowns, we've got a few questions from the board. We'll put some on the screen in a little bit, but one of them says that I got to find this. Florida Native 75 says Nick looks like he just robbed a gas station, so we wanted to give him credit for that.
Quit dry snitching in the comments. What I did at the gas station is none of your business.
He did just take a stroll around the block, Key, so we don't know where he went.
That's right. All right, look, this is a huge game. It really is. Florida's coming off a 6-7 season, but when Florida won that game last year, you're thinking, okay, man, that's a hell of a win. Beating Utah 29-26 at home. Momentum's coming, and then it just didn't happen. So every game kind of is its own entity, right? Every season's its own entity, but it's significant. It is. We know that because we don't really know what the identity of this Florida team's going to be. We don't know. There's so many new faces, Zach. I can't remember which one of you wrote it in the last week, but when you looked at the depth chart, the amount of freshmen and new transfers that were in the 2 deep was staggering. And, coaches always preach chemistry, right? Yeah, chemistry, veteran team. This is a young team and a young team with a bunch of new guys. So, Zach, I ask you, though, with these new guys, young and older, is it a more talented team than last year? What do you think?
We'll find out. I think that what you said to start there about how Napier's kind of prints are all over this roster and kind of how he's flipped it. When I had my depth chart projection, I had a lot of transfers and freshmen featured on it. And he even maybe started more guys or put more guys in the 2 deep than I had projected. Obviously, Jordan Castell being the most notable, Tony Livingston as well. Now, those are 2 positions right there that he has said in camp give him the most concern. If he were to pick 2 spots on offense and defense, is tight end, and it would be safety. And what is he doing? He's starting 2 freshmen that he and his staff brought in to upgrade those spots. So I think it says a lot about, maybe some of the direction there and what they feel like is a changing of the guard. Now, are they going to be better? Well, Billy kind of addressed that in my preview story at Gators Online, where he says, hey, are we ready to play a game? Are we ready for week 1? Well, we're going to be playing a lot of young players, and we're going to be playing a lot of transfers who are newcomers to the program. So there could be some growing pains early on in the season, and this is going to be a huge test for Florida to see how they handle a road environment and a really quality football team. But we might not be able to tell until a few weeks into the season. Obviously, once we get into SEC play, how truly talented this team is, and if they are in fact going to be better than what we saw last year.
Nick, early on in the show, we got to bring up Graham Mertz, obviously. I mean, that's really the one guy that every Gator fans watch. I think they feel like they know there's some known commodities with the running backs. And, obviously there's question marks all over. They're going to watch the offensive line, the defensive line, linebackers. Of course, secondary, I think people feel pretty good about. But Graham Mertz, he's been such a polarizing figure since he arrived in Gainesville earlier this year. 19 touchdown passes last year at Wisconsin, 10 interceptions. It probably was his best season, maybe not in TD to interception ratio, but it was his most touchdown passes, his most yards. Wisconsin's success really was, I think they finished 7-5, 7-6 in that area. Obviously, it's not all on the quarterback, but what have you heard about Graham Mertz from the inside, people on the inside, and then also what have you seen from the limited open windows that you've been to for the media to watch practice, but also the one big practice?
Before you answer that, Nick, I want you to answer one other question.
Oh, God.
And that is what we have in the comment section from Christian. Can you explain to the audience why, if they see me in a hat, it's always going to be this one?
Bro, Zach has just a massive skull. We've gotten sent hats before from Bird Dogs. We've gotten the Bird Dog hat that you can get from our code Gators at birddogs.com doesn't fit his head. I think that's the only hat in the world that fits his misshapen skull. So that's why it's always that hat.
Shout out to Nike.
All right. So, sorry, I just hit the microphone. So back to that. There's a couple questions. What are people on the inside telling you about Graham Mertz? What have you seen with your own eyes? What should we expect from this dude?
Yeah, I was. Listen, when you take a quarterback in the transfer portal from Wisconsin, my first thought is, what are you doing? Wisconsin can't spell pass, has no interest in passing the ball. And then Graham got to the spring, and I wasn't really impressed with him. I think as a fourth-year guy coming into a brand new offense, it took him time to learn the offense, the ins and outs. And Graham says, there's an answer to everything, which means he has to know the offense like the back of his hand, to be able to check in and out of plays, to know where to go with the football. What I've seen is Graham get comfortable. And then also the biggest thing with him is I think he knows who he is as a player. He's going to be 23 years old soon. So if you've been on Twitter making fun of how old Jordan Travis is, Graham's like 3 months younger. So watch out with those jokes. But he's an older guy. He's mature. I think he understands who he is as a player. There were times last year, and Zach and I were huge Anthony Richardson fans, but there were times last year where Anthony, hey, if the play isn't open, I don't want to check the ball down because I might be able to run it for 80 yards. Graham Mertz is not going to be afraid to check the ball down to a running back or to his outlet on 2nd and 8, 2nd and 10. I think he knows what his place is in this offense, and he won't try to be something other than what he's going to be asked to be, which I think is a game manager. Yes, he has a big arm. He can make some throws down the field, but Florida's running back, I think Florida has the potentially the most slept on running back room in the entire country. No one's really talking about how good Montrell Johnson and Trevor Etienne are outside of our little circle, our little bubble here covering Florida. So Graham's not going to be asked to go out and win games with his arm. I think really you need Graham to manage the game. And it's not, I don't mean that as like a dirty word or a diss calling him a game manager. So I think that's really what has impressed me the most about Graham Mertz is his maturity and knowing who he is and what he needs to be inside the offense.
You know, I just joined the team at Gators Online a few months ago, but people have come to expect you guys to answer the questions with honesty, with integrity. You're impartial. And so, Zach, I ask you this. This is an important question. It's kind of you got to pick one or the other. What's the higher number today? Graham Mertz touchdown passes tonight or Nick DeLeon naps between noon and kickoff today?
I mean, that's just unfair to Graham. That's it. If Graham beats my nap game, then he's a Heisman contender.
Well,
so, like, that's just unfair.
You know, I'm going to say because of the time that we're doing this, Nick, or Keith, I only think he's going to get in one nap before kickoff. So because of that, I'm going to go over for Mertz because I think he's got 2 touchdowns in him tonight.
I'm an all-American napper. All-American.
I mean, they talk about a guy like, you know, Ernie Davis at Syracuse just was one of those running backs that transcended sport and changed the game. And, you know, when it comes to naps, I would say Nick DeLeon has changed the game. Okay. He's basically, remember Steve Spurrier in an SEC running conference to passing conference overnight because of Steve Spurrier. This is what I've seen out of Nick this week out here in Salt Lake City. Guys, who's the forget about Graham Mertz. Who's the one guy for the Florida team? We can start with you, Zach. The one guy you're kind of just really piqued your interest. You just really want it. You're curious about him. For me, it's Eugene Wilson. And I'll tell you why. Freshman receiver. I heard all these great things. I never got to see him play in high school. I just know he's super fast. He's super twitchy. And he's just, I don't know. He's supposed to be electric. So I want to see the guy. I've never seen him in person. So that's my guy. Zach, who would be your guy? Who's really got piqued your curiosity?
Well, let me just add one thing to. We got a comment section in the comment section. Nick does not need any edibles to take a nap. No, that's not required.
But if you have any, we'll forward you his address later. Okay.
But if you do like edibles, check out Rogue Shop. Use our code. Save yourself some money.
That's right.
By the way, also, can we add that we need people to subscribe to the YouTube page, Gators Online, like everything, and comment. We love it. We appreciate all the feedback. But anyway, back to senior writer extraordinaire, Zach Oliveri. The one guy really, Zach, I mean, seriously, there's got to be somebody that, besides Mertz, because we all know everybody's curious to see how he does. Who's really piqued your interest?
Well, this week, I think the guy that's piqued my interest the most is, one of them has been Khalil Jackson. I mean, I knew when he got put on scholarship that he was going to be a factor. When he caught a touchdown in the spring game, when he was repping with the starters and running with the ones in the spring game, that he was going to be involved. But I didn't expect him to be one of 5 guys that Billy Napier named as the most consistent throughout the offseason, and then him to be, outright a starting receiver in Billy's eyes, as he described him yesterday on the SEC teleconference. So for his, rise up the depth chart, his obviously whatever consistency that he's been putting in for Billy to give him that type of praise, it's clear that he is going to be among the top weapons that they have at receiver, along with these 3 freshmen that are obviously going to make an impact. You mentioned Wilson. On the defensive side of the ball, I'll go, I can name a lot of guys, but I'm going to say Scooby Williams. He was another surprise for me as maybe I shouldn't say a surprise. At Gators Online, we had reported come out of the spring that he was one of 5 players that, according to folks that we talked to in the program, had boosted his stock in the eyes of the staff. Now, granted, Derek Wingo was basically out all spring. Taraja Mitchell was limited. So I think Nick probably would agree. We attributed maybe some of his ability to see the field and start in the spring game to those guys being out. But now we get here to the end of fall camp, and he's not only listed as the starter at same linebacker, but he's one of the top options at inside linebacker as well. So he's going to be kind of the versatile linebacker that they move around, line up on the edge, line up inside. So I'm intrigued to see, how they use him and what he looks like.
All right, Nick, same question to you. And then also, we're going to start. Sorry, there's all kinds of background noise. We're going to start taking some of your questions. So feel free to pump them in here. We're going to go 15, 20 more minutes. The guys have to do some work today, so we're going to let them do that. But Nick, your question, same question to you. Who's kind of piqued your interest the most for Florida?
Yeah, I think I really like the three freshman receivers. K-Jack's the guy that Zach mentioned. Jordan Castell will be the one for me. I think the safety room, and it goes back to what Billy said and what Zach brought up, I think there's going to be some growing pains. The safety room for me, Austin Armstrong puts a lot on them. They are essentially the quarterback of the defense. They have to make calls, checks. They need to be, if they talk about 4D player, that's what you need at safety. You need to know what all 21 other players on the field are doing to play safety effectively at Florida and in this defense. So I don't know that Jordan Castell is there yet. But from what I've seen from him, he's a guy in high school would walk down to the line of scrimmage and can play physical. I think he's a guy that you can have cover tight ends. I think he's a guy who, what we have seen in spring and fall, someone who just gets his hands on the ball. He makes plays. That's why he's going to start. And in a room where I've been underwhelmed, I think I'm pretty clearly on record that I had not thought highly of the Gators safety room this offseason. I'm excited about 14 and what Jordan Castell can do. Now, there's going to be lumps. You're going to make freshman mistakes. There's going to be growing pains. But I'm excited. I'd rather see Jordan Castell do that than some of the other guys. And I think there will be a rotation. But I think Jordan Castell is a guy who, in my opinion, will just take that starting job and run with it this season. So he's one that I'm definitely keying in on.
Okay, let's get to a couple questions here. Let's see here. Where is the one I just saw, guys? It's already – okay. So I'm trying to learn this whole system. Okay, Zach asked to all three of us. We'll just answer this really quick. Will the Gators score over 20.5 points tonight? I say yes. I think there's going to be a defensive touchdown tonight, guys. That's my other prediction. I say yes.
I say yes as well. And I had them at that before I changed my prediction on video.
No. There was no changing of the prediction. The prediction was made.
I have a print prediction and I have a video prediction.
That's unbelievable flip-flopping. And it's frankly unbecoming of a writer of your stature, Zachary.
I blame Kyle Whittingham and his, not being forthcoming.
Nick, I was reading these things. Did you give an answer yet?
We made our picks. I think I picked Florida 27-20, so that's more.
Okay. All right. Next question. David. Good photo there, David. Do any of you change your predictions now that Rising and Keithy aren't playing?
Not allowed.
Yes.
Not allowed.
What?
Yes.
Not allowed.
Nope, not allowed. Not
allowed. Florida wins tonight.
Not allowed.
Yeah.
Not allowed.
So I'll stick with my original prediction of Utah winning because I don't go back on that stuff. I mean, it's locked in. I'll take that loss.
Get to change it on our official record tracker.
That's right.
But just for the record on here.
That's right.
Yes.
Asking me right now, yes, I think Florida probably 23-16. What are you thinking? But we'll get final predictions later.
How many picks am I allowed to make?
Okay.
We can just make picks. We can make all the picks all year long. I'm just trying to figure out the rules, which seem ever changing here.
Right,
As the only member of Gators Online that picked Florida.
Hey, where's the mute button, Zach? We need a giant gong. All right, next up. Chris asked, do you guys think Kyle Whittingham, Utah's coach, is pulling everyone's leg about Cam Rising and the tight end Keithy? I don't know if he's – well, I'll let you guys answer this. What do you think?
I mean –
No, I to me, and I've said this all offseason, 7 months, yes, the surgery has become more routine. Treatment is better than ever. You're seeing guys come back quicker and quicker. 7 months is an aggressive timeline to come back from ACL surgery, even if everything goes right. All of your rehab goes right. It's an aggressive timeline. So I thought, hey, even if he does get cleared, what will he be? I don't think, in my opinion, he would have been what we saw last year, where he's breaking off runs, extending drives, extending plays with his legs, running for 91 yards. So in my mind, I never thought Cam Rising would be what we saw. And if he did play, then you're playing at a disadvantage almost. A healthy Cam Rising is a top 10 quarterback in the country. Now I wonder was this a chess move by Kyle Whittingham and Cam Rising in Utah just to like make Florida think that he could play when they knew, hey, he was never going to be able to be cleared? And maybe they've been running Bryson Barnes out. I know they haven't been running Bryson Barnes out there because it was going to be Brandon Rose before his injury. But maybe they've been game planning around Bryson Barnes for 2 months and just letting us talk about Cam Rising.
All right, Zach.
Yeah, and I think that's great point for Mick. He mentioned that yesterday when we were by the river, reacting to that news on Rising, and yeah, like he's usually not, from talking to Josh who covers Utah, he's usually not, doesn't play those games like that, and I do think that there's something to be said about trying to have Florida spend time on Rising. I know from just leading up to the game that Florida inside the program was trying to find out information about Utah's quarterback situation and where things stood and what the reps were looking like in practice, because there was nothing coming out of Salt Lake City. And I think that the fact that they kept the staff guessing and they had to prepare for all three quarterbacks instead of just coming out and saying, yeah, there's no way Cam's going to play, we're starting Barnes, and then Austin and the staff just spend fall camp and obviously this game week preparing for Barnes and Nate Johnson. That's less time, that's less film study. So it would make sense, and you try and find every edge that you can to win. And I think this one's really important for Utah because they lost this one last year.
All right, next question we got from where did it go here? I just lost it. Okay, here we go. This is from Eric Powell. Do you expect an aggressive defense from Florida since it's Utah's backup quarterback? Just one of you guys take that one. I mean, personally, I think it's going to be always going to be aggressive.
Yeah, agree.
Who wants that one? But we don't all need to answer them. But
I think it was going to be. I'm with you, Keith. I think it was going to be aggressive no matter what. If it's Rising playing, they were going to come after him because even if he was cleared to go, he was not going to be the same Cam Rising that played in the swamp last season. So you're going to try and rattle him that way. And now that you've got a guy making his second career start and then a redshirt freshman who hasn't played a lot either, yeah, I mean, Austin Armstrong is going to bring the house tonight, and he's going to try and come after these quarterbacks. It'll be interesting to see how they defend Nate Johnson potentially differently because of his dual threat ability. But I think at the end of the day, Austin Armstrong, that is kind of a staple of his system, is getting after the quarterback.
All right, next question. Devil Dog Gator. What a great name. And we got to thank this guy for his service, obviously. And sorry, I'm getting phone calls here. Devil Dog Gator asks, over under on Gators sacks tonight, 5. What do you guys think? Nick, why don't we just go with you on that one?
Oh, I mean, five's a lot. So like
Five's
Austin Armstrong like dialed up pressure in the spring game when he wasn't supposed to. So I can't even imagine.
Nick, how many did Florida have in that season opener against Miami in 2018? Was it?
I'm looking right now.
Or 19?
Oh, that was a 19. That was 10 sacks.
10 sacks
in that game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Last year against Utah, no sacks. Florida had trouble getting to the quarterback last year. I'll go under, but I'll go over. I'll go over. As the guy who picked them to win, I'll go over. Let's
Whoa.
for Florida.
Whoa. All right.
I'm going under.
Okay. We got
But I think they get multiple sacks. Multiple.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I think Utah's going to throw 22 times, and you know what I mean? Like, that's a lot of 5 is a lot of sacks and 22 dropbacks. So whatever. All right, next question. Let's see. Let's pop this one up. Jason Williams, is this white chocolate chiming in?
What's up, Jay Will?
I don't know, man. Well, who knows? Do you all feel like Cam Jackson, transfer defense? Am I getting this right? Transfer defensive tackle for Memphis?
Yep.
Sometimes I get all these names mixed up. Do we feel like he is going to be a dominating defensive tackle that the Gator fans are hoping for? I mean, a true difference maker. Thanks for the question, Jason. Who wants that one?
Yes.
I don't think that he's like an all-American dominating guy, going to be a top 3 pick. I think it's the sum of all the parts for me on Florida's defensive line. Last year, Gervon Dexter played like 700 snaps. Des Watson played nearly 400. Florida was just gassed all the time in a a defensive line that's gassed is going to permeate and hurt the defense as a whole through the rest of the game. So I think Cam Jackson's going to be a good player for Florida. But I also think you have to take into account Caleb Banks, Chris McClellan, Will Norman, TJ Saracen. Like, there's so many guys. Florida's so much deeper and more talented on the defensive line that I think yes, Cam Jackson's good. I think he will be a good player, but it's the sum of the parts for me on the defensive line more so than just one player.
All right. Just a comment from Florida native 75. He thinks that Austin Armstrong, Florida's young defensive coordinator, would blitz his mom if she was under center for the opposing team. This guy, he's known for those attacking, aggressive defenses, but that's really a game by game thing, obviously. But yeah, this is probably an accurate comment. All right, next up here, let's see here. Wicked Fresh wants to know, what are y'all looking for from the defense of Florida other than tackling? Nick, we did things, a story today, a video yesterday, just kind of things that Florida has to do to win. And one of the things you mentioned, one of the big things was, hey, they got to tackle a lot better than they have in recent seasons. But beyond that, what do you guys think the Florida defense has to do to be successful tonight?
Defend the tight ends. Now, does Brant Keithy play? That seems, unlikely. It's from the latest that we're hearing. But it's crazy that he had his ACL injury so many months ahead of Rising and is basically in the same boat as him. So if he doesn't play, that obviously takes away some of that threat. But they've got some other tight ends that can make some plays at that position as well. But obviously last year they had a terrible time defending the run. Tavion Thomas went over 100 yards. Cam Rising had 91 yards rushing. So to be better defending the run in this game would be huge. Obviously, if they can get sacks on the quarterback, I think that's another thing that we mentioned didn't have any last year. And get off the field on third down, man. That was a bugaboo, not just in this matchup, but a lot of games last year.
All right, 10-minute warning. Like I said, these guys got to work. Hit the like button, subscribe, make comments, all that stuff. We appreciate everybody being here. We thank you for your support of Gators Online. We're going to take a couple more questions, and then we're going to dig into a few things, and we'll sign off here. Jerry Brown, former governor of California, asks, who do you guys think will be the defensive player of the game? Easy, quick answer. What do you guys think? Defensive player of the game for Florida?
It's a good question. Really, I think a guy that would need to fall into that category for Florida to win would be Princely Umanmielen. I think that he needs to wreak havoc on the edge. I think that he's got a guy need to be kind of the leader there that's of them getting after the quarterback and obviously be effective in the run game. But he is one of their premier players on defense, if not potentially the best player on defense, and he's got to show that tonight.
All right, Nicholas, what do you got? Player of the game defensively for Florida.
Shamar James.
Ooh. Okay. All right, somebody's asking about, just so Justin knows, you're asking about thoughts on Jake Slaughter. We already discussed that a little bit earlier in the show, so you can, when it's over, you can rewind, get back in there. I don't mean to cut you.
But I'll give you a little nugget on that, or not nugget, but
go right ahead. Go right ahead.
Kingsley Agholor calls him Slaughterhouse, and Graham Mertz says that he's got the last name tailor-made for an offensive lineman. So there's a lot of confidence in that building about Jake.
All right. Next question from Daddy Gator. Graham Mertz stat line prediction. I'll say 16 of 22, 185 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. Around that range for me.
Do you remember what you put down in the live chat last week, Nick?
No, I was trying.
All right. Hey guys, well that's just.
I would say that I think he's going to go over 200.
Okay.
And I think he's going to throw a couple touchdowns tonight. I think he's going to. For everybody that thinks that Florida's offense is just going to be this ground and pound, handed off to Montrell and Trevor Etienne every single series, they're going to do that a lot, but they've got some guys in the passing game that they feel like Graham can get the ball to, and I think we'll see what he can do tonight.
All right, next question here. This is from Anderson. This is a guy that people ask about a lot. And we'll let Nick take this one. Why is Arliss Boardingham? Am I getting that pronounced out right? So low on the depth chart. Take it away, Nicholas.
Yeah, it's listen. Physically, he gives you something different right now than anyone else in the tight end room. I think the issue with him is knowing the offense, knowing where he needs to be. I just don't think he's there in terms of his grasp of the playbook yet, and that's what's holding him back. There's nothing physically with his game that holds him back.
All right, Nick, while we've got you, Drake asks for the punting game prediction for tonight. You're the kind of known as the punting guru of college football.
Yeah.
Hell of a label.
Yeah, it's tough. Billy Napier is not a friend to punters. It's 3rd and 12, and he'll run a dive to get 6 yards because he'll go for it on 4th and 6. I almost missed Will Muschamp. I mean, I watched Johnny Townsend punt nearly 80 times in a season. That is electric. That's what fans are paying to see. And we don't see enough of it at Florida, quite frankly.
All right.
Nick, you are speaking for the small minority right there.
All right, guys, we're going to
shout out to the Crawshaws in Emu Plains, Australia. I don't think it's going to be a great time on the clock when they tune in to watch Jeremy tonight.
All right, we're going to kind of get into that next. When you're on an airplane, they say, all right, we're going to start descending into the airport. That's the phase of the show we're in right now. So I'm going to ask you guys 2 more questions each. For each of you first, if you're a Gator fan right now, what's one thing that should give Gator fans, make them feel good about this game? What is one thing that Florida's doing well or you think is going to do well in this game? But what's one thing that should give a Gator fan some confidence right now? Zach, why don't you go first?
I mean, Utah's quarterback situation.
Yeah.
I know obviously you want some confidence from the Florida side of things. But look, Utah's quarterback situation, this is a golden opportunity for the Gators to go on the road and get a huge win to start the season. I think also, I would say that I'm interested to see, what Montrell Johnson and Trevor Etienne can do in this game now that they are who they are. Last year, they were not who they, are. They hadn't really emerged yet at Florida. Naquan Wright was the starting running back. Montrell Johnson fumbled on his first carry. Trevor Etienne fumbled in the game. Now, they both made plays in that game, key plays to help Florida win. But they're going to get a lot more touches and be a lot more involved tonight. And I think that they could be the difference maker. Now, the thing that gives me the most concern.
No.
Okay. I'll save that.
Save that one. Nick, Gator fan, most confidence right now. You can the thing that should make them feel good. You can basically say the same thing Zach said, or maybe you have something different. What would it be?
Yeah, I mean, it's the most confident thing. The thing that would give you the most confidence is Cam Rising's not playing. Bryson Barnes has been there for a while, but he's a backup for a reason. Has been Cam Rising's backup for a reason. If Brant Keithy can't play as well, that gives you a ton of confidence as well. Utah not having its best players playing should give you confidence.
All right. And then finally, for both of you guys, and we'll go back to Zach first for this one. We know what would make you feel good if you're a Florida fan. What's something to be concerned about? What is something to really, really make you think, okay, this could be a problem. This is something that my team better take care of. What would it be, Zach?
Well, it's 2 things. You asked me earlier, do I think Florida's going to be a better team or do they have the talent to be a better team? And I said it might take a few weeks before we can really get a gauge on that. And that's because of how young they are and how much newness there is to their roster. And I think that could potentially show up in game 1 on the road in a, I want to say a tough environment, but this place is going to be packed and these fans are going to be ready for this game. So how all those freshmen and transfers handle that, first time together as a new team. But I think probably the biggest concern or maybe just thing to monitor, I don't know if the staff is as concerned about it, but this is because of the news today that we have at Gators Online on Kingsley Agholor. This is a brand new offensive line 1 through 5. Every single guy that is starting is at a brand new spot that he's never started at before for Florida or for any other position for that matter. I guess Damian George did start at right tackle at Alabama, but Micah Mazuka was a starting left guard at Baylor. Now he's at right guard. Richie Leonard is at left guard. Austin Barber has moved from right tackle to left tackle. This is his first game starting there. I mentioned George, and then obviously you got Jake Slaughter making his first career start at center. It's a brand new offensive line going up against a really talented Utah defense that does a really good job defending the run. And I said Florida needs their running backs to kind of show out. So that would be something, again, that's cause for concern for sure.
All right, Nick, cause for concern for you. What would it be for Florida?
It has to be the offensive line, like Zach was just talking about. Graham Mertz last year, I think when you look at his interceptions, it was when he was sacked, how often he was sacked, or when he was under pressure. That's going to be a huge concern. It was one of my concerns that I wrote about a couple of weeks ago at Gators Online, just saying, listen, this is a team that doesn't have offensive line depth to be able to withstand a couple of injuries, and now you're seeing one in the very first game. So that one is an issue for me. And then kind of to go back to what we talked about yesterday, Keith, tackling. Just the way that practice and the way that football programs are run now, you don't tackle in practice. You're not doing two-a-days. You're not taking guys to the ground. I think you see it even from programs like Alabama and Georgia. Week one, you have some issues tackling. You can roll those foam donuts around the field as long as you want, 12 hours a day. It's not the same as trying to tackle a 215-pound running back with a head full of steam. So that's an issue for me. Can Florida tackle Utah? It's their margin for error is so thin. I don't think you can get away with missing tackles and letting small gains turn to big ones.
Okay, some yes or no's, and then we'll get out of here. Does Florida rush for over 200 yards tonight, guys? Yes or no? No breakdown?
Yes.
Yes.
And I say yes. Does Graham Mertz pass for over 200 yards?
Yes.
No.
No. Does Utah score more than 20 points or 20 or more points?
Ooh.
Yes.
No.
No. Is altitude a factor? Is it going to be a factor in this game?
Hell no.
Hey, listen, I've seen you guys trying to walk around Park City. I didn't think there was going to be a factor before.
Well,
I'm conflicted. I don't know how bad a shape you guys are in.
Well, some of the folks in the comments section, Keith, are attributing Nick's naps to the altitude.
Nah. Okay, is altitude an issue going to be a factor in this game? Big factor. You say no, Zach, right?
Hell no.
Okay. Well, hell no. Okay, Nick.
A little bit.
Yeah, I said bookkeeper. All right. Now let's do game predictions, because earlier in this week we put out our unofficial game predictions, right, Zach? Unofficial game predictions. We're now putting in our official game predictions. Okay. Earlier in the week, let me clarify or restate that. Unofficial earlier in the week. These are the official predictions. I'm saying Florida 23, Utah 16 as my official prediction. That other thing was a first draft, obviously meaningless. 23-16 Florida. Zach, what's your final official prediction?
I'm going to go 24-17 Florida.
All right. Nick, now that you have to, this pick.
I'm not participating in this part. I'm not participating in this part.
Now that we have to pick it,
you guys read our game predictions. My predictions there. You can see their predictions there as well.
So if you go into surgery, all right, I'm not going to use that analogy. Official predictions, all three of us now have the Florida Gators winning. We appreciate everybody stopping by. Again, if you enjoyed the show today, Gators Online live show.
Nick is sick.
What's that?
Nick is just sick.
Yeah,
This is.
Hey, go. Why don't you go rest on it? Okay.
Yeah, sleep it off, bro.
Yeah, sleep it off, buddy. All right, we appreciate everybody stopping by. Hit the like
Wild
button,
behavior.
Subscribe. We appreciate all your comments. Everybody enjoy the game tonight. Have a safe weekend. Another football season is upon us, another Gator football season. And thanks for all the support of Gators Online. For Keith Niebuhr, that's Zach Albaverdi and Nick Delatorre. Thank you so much to everybody for stopping by. Take care.